So Prince George gets handed this ceremonial title, and I mean on the surface it looks like one of those lovely little royal moments, right? The palace puts out the polished statement. The photos are perfect. Everyone nods along because of course the future king gets the honor. But behind that entire performance, Queen Camilla reportedly just completely fell apart. And here's the part that makes it genuinely interesting rather than just sad. She wasn't upset because she dislikes Prince George. She wasn't bitter because she thought a child didn't deserve recognition. She was shattered because this specific title, this exact ceremonial honor, was the one she had spent years quietly believing could one day go to her own grandson, Freddy Parker Bowles. And the way she found out that it wasn't happening, she found out through the official press release. The exact same announcement the public got, no private conversation with her husband, no quiet heads up from the palace machinery she'd spent years serving. She opened the announcement like everyone else and received the message loud and clear. You can wear the crown, Camilla, but your family is still not one of us. And honestly, that's where this whole thing gets messy. Because this was never just about a single title or one awkward snub. This was years of maneuvering, whispered hopes, unspoken promises, and two completely different ideas about who gets to belong inside this monarchy, all crashing into each other in one brutal afternoon. Before we go further, if you enjoy royal deep dives like this, hit subscribe to Crown Watch. It helps more than you know and keeps you in the loop on every single update. Let's rewind a bit, because you genuinely cannot understand why this hit Camilla so hard without understanding what she had been building for years. Camilla didn't exactly walk into the royal family with a clean slate. Far from it. She walked in as the woman blamed for tearing apart a marriage the whole world had been watching. Reporters didn't stop at calling her the other woman, either. They started calling her the homewrecker queen, a nickname designed to reduce her entire existence to one ugly scandal, and that name followed her for more than 10 years. Even after she went from mistress to wife, from the woman the public despised to the woman the palace finally agreed to tolerate, that shadow never completely vanished. By the time she became queen consort, her marriage to King Charles was no longer up for debate. Nobody could challenge her right to stand beside him anymore. But becoming queen didn't suddenly kill her hunger for acceptance. If anything, it simply changed what she wanted accepted next. Not herself, this time, her bloodline. Camilla has 2 children from her first marriage to Andrew Parker Bowles, Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopes. Neither one carried a royal title. Neither one worked for the firm. And the palace had a very simple word for both of them: civilians. Sure, they were loved at Christmas and welcomed into private family photographs, but when it came to actually counting as royal, absolutely not. And that was not something Camilla was willing to just swallow forever. To her, Tom, Laura, and their children were her bloodline, her personal legacy. And she wasn't done fighting for them. So, she started building quietly, carefully. Nothing dramatic enough to draw public fire. Not yet. It started with invitations. Suddenly, her family began showing up at major royal events they had never been invited to before. Then came the photographs, carefully staged and carefully timed. Her grandson, Freddy Parker Bowles, started appearing more and more, sitting closer to the royal family, getting closer to that official frame. People inside Camilla's own circle saw exactly what she was doing. They believed she was grooming Freddy into the acceptable face of her family, someone charming enough, polished enough, and royal-looking enough to finally bridge that stubborn gap between her world and theirs. And honestly, she was clever about it. She never once marched in and demanded a title outright. No, that would have been far too obvious. She let the photographs speak. She let Freddy's presence do the talking for her, again and again, until the message became almost impossible to miss. My family belongs here too, and they can serve this monarchy, not just stand beside it. At private dinners, she brought up Freddy's achievements without fail. At charity events, she made sure his name somehow came up when the right people were standing nearby. She pushed for her grandchildren's photographs to land in palace newsletters and Christmas cards. Tiny wins on their own, maybe, but she kept stacking them one on top of another, year after year. Then Charles took the throne, and Camilla saw her opening. Now she pushed harder, still quietly, of course. According to a retired palace aide, there was even serious talk behind closed doors about giving Freddy Parker Bowles a minor hereditary title. Nothing huge enough to have the public screaming, maybe a barony. Small enough to slip past without causing a storm, but big enough to do the one thing Camilla had been working toward for years. It would finally force the Parker Bowles name into the official royal record for good. But here is where things turned absolutely brutal. One year, during the royal family's traditional Christmas walk to church at Sandringham, Camilla made her boldest move yet. She arranged for Freddie to stand directly behind Prince George and the rest of the next generation, right where every camera would catch him standing shoulder to shoulder with the future of the monarchy. Really, that was all she needed. One photograph like that, printed everywhere, and the message would practically write itself. But a senior courtier spotted what was happening before a single shutter clicked. Freddie was immediately pulled out of line and pushed all the way to the back, next to household staff, just seconds before the photographers started shooting. And the wildest part? Camilla watched every second of that humiliation from across the courtyard. Her own grandson had been positioned beside the future of the monarchy, then physically removed and pushed to the rear, like someone had suddenly remembered he didn't belong there, and she couldn't do a thing. What was she supposed to do in the middle of a public royal Christmas gathering, 'cause a scene and demand they put him back? So she said nothing. She stood there and watched it happen in front of everyone. According to the aide who witnessed it, this was entirely about belonging. Camilla knew exactly what people still called her behind closed doors. She knew that no matter how many decades she survived inside that family, some people would always see her as the outsider queen who somehow got through the palace gates. Pulling her own bloodline into the monarchy's future was her chance to rewrite that story. Once her family was inside, nobody could treat her like a temporary outsider ever again. But that Christmas morning exposed something Camilla wasn't ready to admit. The palace had already made its decision about her family. They didn't need to say it to her face. Watching Freddie get pulled out of that line said plenty. Camilla was about to find out exactly how far the people around her own husband were willing to go to make sure her bloodline stayed out for good. And those people had names: Prince William and Catherine. To understand why these two held the line so hard, you have to understand their entire philosophy about where this monarchy is going. To the public, William and Catherine look like the ultimate modern royal couple: warm, relatable, easy to like. But behind palace doors, people close to them say their real plan is far more calculated. From the moment William stepped into his role as heir, he followed one rule without exception. This wasn't about personal pride or royal arrogance. He wanted to kill the confusion before it even started. Who actually counts as royal, and who doesn't? An insider put it plainly. William understood something basic. The monarchy only survives if the public sees the line of succession as clean, direct, and uncluttered. Blood matters. And if blood matters, titles have to prove it. That was exactly where the quiet war with Camilla began. Camilla wanted a blended family tree, one where her Parker Bowles grandchildren were folded into the official picture. William and Catherine wanted the complete opposite. Only direct Windsor blood gets a title. As the future king, William wanted a leaner monarchy, fewer working royals, clearer roles, and absolutely zero honors handed out just because someone happened to marry into the family. So when Camilla started floating title ideas for her grandchildren, William didn't even argue with her. He went completely silent. That silence wasn't hesitation, it was calculated. Years earlier, Camilla had won a smaller victory. She managed to get Tom and Laura greater prominence at a state event. And what happened next? She reportedly leaked the details to a friendly royal reporter within weeks, spinning it publicly as proof that the family was finally embracing her children. The palace was blindsided and had to scramble an emergency statement to walk it back. William never forgot that mess. To him, it proved exactly what would happen if he gave Camilla even an inch on Freddie. It wouldn't stay private. It would be splashed across the papers, dressed up as progress, and then dragged back out as ammunition for her next demand. So this time, his response wasn't a firm no, it was total silence. Because even responding would give her something to grab onto, and Catherine wasn't sitting idly by either. When the palace was choosing photos for the annual Christmas release, Catherine personally stepped in and asked for Freddy Parker Bowles to be cropped out of a final group picture. Not because of who he was personally, but because his face sitting next to George, Charlotte, and Louis quietly suggested a status he simply did not have. She reportedly told an aide she wasn't about to let one photograph undo years of careful work establishing who counts as a working royal. Then came the moment Camilla truly understood how little leverage she had left. Right after King Charles's coronation, she requested a private one-on-one meeting with Prince William. Think about that. This was something she never even had to ask for with Charles, because Charles always sought her out first. But William's office scheduled her meeting 3 weeks out, and then, to make it clear where she stood, they quietly folded it into a group briefing packed with other senior staff. She never got her private audience. Not once. For years, Camilla pushed, and for years, she met resistance, until eventually, she got nothing at all. Former aides noted that William never needed to shout. He simply let the stillness do the talking. Catherine had her own reasons to stay firm, too. Optics. In an era where every royal move is dissected online, handing formal honors to step-grandchildren would scream favoritism. And favoritism is a public relations disaster the modern monarchy cannot afford. So when Prince George was finally handed the ceremonial title reserved for future kings, the very title Camilla had hoped might go to Freddy, it wasn't just a standard announcement. It was the definitive answer. Loud, public, and impossible to twist. It told everyone exactly who the monarchy's future belonged to, the Windsors, not the Parker Bowles line. Staff said William knew precisely how Camilla would react, and he made zero effort to soften the blow. He believed it was better to be brutally direct now than to string her along with false hope. As a source close to the family put it, William wasn't being cruel, he simply wasn't being sentimental when it came to protecting the crown, and right in the middle of this entire mess stood King Charles, trapped between the woman he loved and the son who will one day take his place. Publicly, Charles is painted as the calm, steady hand holding everything together, but privately, he was forced to make a choice that exposed a harsh reality. Charles might wear the crown right now, but Prince William controls the future, and that future has no official room in it for the Parker Bowles family. For years, Camilla leaned on Charles to help push her family forward. She never stormed into a room demanding things. She expressed her wishes quietly. Hopes, really. A title for Freddy one day, some kind of formal recognition. And Charles, ever the diplomat, always had the same reassuring response. We'll find the right moment. Well, the actual moment arrived. The decision on that ceremonial title had to be made, and Charles was standing at a brutal crossroads. Give Freddy the title and trigger an all-out war with Prince William, or hand it to his grandson George and completely shatter his wife. In the end, Charles chose the crown. Because when it really comes down to it, he always does. Sources say he hesitated at first. Charles actually proposed a compromise, reviving an old dormant honorific, one last used generations ago for a distant relative not in line for the throne. No land, no income, no claim to succession. Freddy would simply carry a royal-sounding style at official events without touching the actual peerage. Charles built the proposal specifically so William could say yes without surrendering anything that mattered. William said no anyway. He saw it as something that would dilute the visual clarity of the royal bloodline, and Charles finally caved. Charles called in his private secretary and gave the order to draft the announcement naming Prince George. Then, completely unprompted, he added one final instruction. Make sure Freddy Parker Bowles' name or any mention of an alternative title never appears anywhere in the briefing materials. Camilla was not told any of this was happening. She didn't even know a draft existed. Charles simply didn't want the confrontation. He understood that defying William meant declaring war inside his own household, father against son, king against heir. When the announcement went live, Camilla found out through the official press release, the exact same way the rest of the world did. An insider said she saw Prince George's name on the screen and froze. That night at Clarence's house, the carefully composed queen finally broke down. Holding the printed announcement, she reportedly said through tears, "They have erased us. After everything, they have erased us." When Charles tried to comfort her with soft explanations about tradition, protocol, and royal strategy, Camilla cut through it. She looked at her husband and said, "You let them humiliate me." This was no longer about William. William had never promised her anything. This was about her husband, the man who had once defied the world to be with her, but who stepped back when she needed him to stand up for her family. She looked him in the eye and asked, "Did you even try?" In the days that followed, Camilla canceled several public commitments, officially citing health concerns. But staff noticed the change immediately. She was quiet, distant, and ice cold. There is one small detail that captures the shift better than any headline. For years, Camilla had personally picked out Charles's tie every single morning, a small, private ritual between them. After that announcement, she stopped completely. She handed the task over to his valet without a word. When Charles asked her about it once, she didn't answer. She simply let the silence sit between them. And Charles didn't push her on it, because deep down, he knew why. For the first time in their marriage, the bond felt fractured. Camilla had spent decades surviving public hatred, media attacks, and palace rejection to earn her place. But this snub proved a painful truth. The acceptance she had fought so hard for extended only to her, never to her bloodline. She was left sitting with one brutal question. After finally becoming queen, did she ever really belong there at all? As the dust settled, royal commentators began focusing on what this moment actually signifies for the future of the monarchy. Beyond the personal drama lies a massive generational divide. On one side stands the future, a leaner, sharper House of Windsor. Prince William, Catherine, and their children, molded into a tight, focused core built purely on direct succession. On the other side stands what insiders now call the blended branch, Camilla's family, loyal, present at private dinners, but officially non-existent in the eyes of royal protocol. Welcome in, family snapshots, but locked out of the institution. As one royal historian noted, we are watching two distinct visions of the monarchy collide. Camilla wanted an inclusive legacy that embraced her blended family. Prince William is building a streamlined institution that strips away everything except the direct bloodline. And both of them are convinced their way is the only way for the monarchy to survive. For Freddy Parker Bowles and his relatives, it creates a strange existence. Growing up inside palace walls, attending holiday gatherings with Prince George, Charlotte, and Louis, yet knowing there is an absolute line drawn between their futures. At a past Sandringham Christmas, the seating arrangement said it all. Freddie was placed at a separate table in an adjoining room with staff children and distant relations, close enough to see the main dining room but not inside it. When he asked his mother why he wasn't sitting with George, there was no easy answer to give. As Prince George steps into formal duties, honors, and diplomatic preparation, Camilla's grandchildren remain entirely on the civilian side of the fence. While some argue this strict boundary is necessary to keep the modern monarchy lean and relevant, others warn it plants seeds of quiet, long-term resentment. The title went to Prince George, the line was drawn, and the future of the crown was made absolute. Blood over sentiment, legacy over family. What do you think about Prince William's strict policy on titles? Was King Charles right to prioritize the crown, or should Camilla's family have been given formal recognition? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the modern monarchy.